is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we
get
do?
People what they want.
Jalen Rose.
What up,
the
dog?
Golden State Warriors are NBA champions, and now it is time to talk about what they're going to do this offseason. Here is what Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins had to say to each other during the celebration.
What? Yes. Yes. We can do that. You a world champion. And you about to get a bag. You about to get a bag. No. You about to get a bag. We about to get a bag. We about to get a bag. We all
All good when the champagne is spraying and you're celebrating the championship. They're both up for extensions. Do Wiggins and Poole stay on the Warriors long term?
I believe they do, and I believe they should. And one of the things that the Warriors have been able to do via injury earlier with Steph in his career, not having to pay him top dollar and building out a roster that led to strength in numbers. Same thing happened with losing KD, adding Wiggins, also drafting well. And here's the future for them. Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, Poole, that's their future.
Yeah.
And Wiggins clearly figures into that. And Gary Payton II also is going to have an opportunity to see what happens with him. Usually what happens, a coach like Mike Brown that's already on the staff is going to try to pluck a couple of their players. I guarantee you, when you watch the Sacramento Kings, it's going to look like looking at the Warriors. You're like, oh, got it. Coaches, staff members, because of a championship familiarity. And so for these two guys, they played maximum roles. How about this? Jason Tatum outplayed Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
He helped shoot down Milwaukee and helped shoot down Miami. But Wiggins outplayed him in the finals.
That's fair to say.
Wiggins outplayed him in the finals. And based on that, if you're Wiggins and you're the third option offensively on the team,
Second.
sometimes fourth option on the team.
Sometimes.
No, it's Splash Brothers and he and or Poole. Like, those are the options. And so based on that, and you can still get top dollar to play a role. Like, when you come out as remember this when the draft happens this week. People ain't going in the top 5 just because they can play defense. That ain't happening. You ain't drafting nobody in the top 5. He's like, he gonna block 2 shots. He'll get 9 rebounds. No, that's in addition to what they already do. When you going in the top 5, it's gotta be like, he has skill. He could get me 20. He has game. We can when you draft somebody in the top 5, that should be a perennial all-star.
The potential. You also draft the potential.
Correct. You want that to be a perennial. A top 5 player is drafted to be a perennial all-star. And so for Wiggins, he had to reinvent himself. Like I talk about being a vet. And he landed in a perfect spot where he could start the all-star game, be terrible after all-star break, nobody ever says his name,
Nope.
Reinvent himself in the playoffs, in particular against the Mavs, play excellent against the Boston Celtics, win the championship, and he deserves his money.
He absolutely does. And Jordan Poole is such a big part of what they did offensively, especially during the regular season. A lot of those wins when Steph was out, when Draymond was out, because of Jordan Poole. I think they both stay on the roster and get their money. Draymond Green doesn't hold his tongue. You know, he lets you know how he feels. And he does that through his podcast, and he does it through Twitter. And him and Ja Morant went back and forth a little bit on Twitter, and it got interesting. We all remember the strength in numbers and the Jaren Jackson Jr. call out. And him and Ja went back and forth, and they were talking about a Christmas game between the two of them. A lot of people forget the Grizzlies actually had a better regular season record than the Warriors this season. Do you see this as sort of a budding rivalry?
It can't be a budding rivalry because Steph already got 4.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it just can't be. That ship has sailed. This would have been a year to kind of interrupt that. And they were trending towards that. The Memphis Grizzlies for this year's playoffs are the biggest what if. When you're watching them beat the Golden State Warriors at one point in the game by 55 points, and Ja Morant is not playing.
That was wild. That's the champions right there.
Yeah,
they were
like
55 on the champ.
Yeah, you know what? They got a legit chance to do some things this year.
But at the same time, let's not forget what happened in that Timberwolves series, too. Like, they didn't look great throughout that Timberwolves series.
Correct. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they're new to this. Like, they outplayed expectations being a 2 seed, 3 seed, jockeying in the West after being a part of the play-in the year prior. And Ja Morant is a superstar. And I don't throw that term out very often. But I like the fact that Draymond is holding everybody accountable.
Yep.
Because he played great in the closeout game.
He did. Game 6.
Draymond played great. I was in the building.
Forget all about game 2.
Double, like 8 assists, like 2 or 3 blocks, 2 or 3 steals. He was great. And so now he gets a chance, and rightfully so, to keep receipts. Mm-hmm. And the one thing you can do when you win is talk your talk.
Yes, you can.
The one thing you should do when you lose, say less. But for Memphis, there are what if 3 dots because Ja knows I wasn't playing. And y'all know I wasn't playing. It is going to be great to watch them play in the Western Conference, but not just them. Every year a champion gets crowned, remember this, somebody that year likely got injured. I can say what if about the Clippers. I can say what if about, I can say what if about the
Tim
Miami
Hardaway
Heat.
Jr., all of it. Yeah.
Middleton,
Of
like
course,
on and on and on. But the bottom line, the Golden State Warriors, the champion is about endurance. Finding a way to navigate the regular season, reinvent yourself and play multiple styles in the playoffs, and then close the deal in the finals. Mm-hmm. That's what they did.
And make adjustments mid-series, which is something that they did against the Celtics, much better than the Celtics.
And shout out to Steve Kerr. How many rings he got? 9?
9 rings.
5 as a
Kerr.
player, 4 as a coach. That's all time. When we start talking about like Red Auerbach and Phil Jackson and Pat Riley and Greg Popovich, like he's in their class now.
We are in the offseason officially. We'll be discussing a lot this offseason. The draft is this week. And there are some star players that could be on the move this offseason. According to The Athletic, there's an impasse between Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, he has until June 29th to exercise his option. Do you think Kyrie Irving is going to be a Net next year?
I do.
Why's that?
Because KD will. And the one thing about that relationship is, remember how it started. The first year, KD was injured. Mm-hmm. So while KD was rehabbing his injury, Kyrie held it down, and he held it down to the point where it allowed them to recruit James Harden. You parlay James Harden into Ben Simmons. When Ben Simmons is healthy, he's going to fit nice with Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. That's a nice nucleus.
Yes, it is.
Right? They're going to be right back in the mix. But the impasse that you just talked about really is just about his contract. And let me teach everybody how NBA contracts work. If I'm a Kyrie Irving and I'm representing him, we ain't giving y'all a discount, and we're not giving y'all no clause about games. I don't care what Joel Embiid signed. I don't care what whoever else signed. That has zero to do with me.
I'm not exercising the option. That's what the team wants. The team wants them to exercise the option. That's 1 year. I'll take 4 or 5.
No, I believe to get this deal done, of course you acknowledge Kyrie and his greatness on the basketball court, but you're also doing a duality with KD. So you're going to KD and saying, that's your man. We're going to give him a deal. We need you to hold him accountable.
Yep.
And if you can't hold him accountable, we're going to trade him. So you can't now lose him this offseason and LeBron all of a sudden starting to recruit him to LA, or people starting to recruit him to the Knicks, and then all of a sudden he opt out and leave. KD like, oh, seriously?
Now it's me and Joe Harris.
Right, exactly. And so I believe the deal gets done, and I believe he gets top dollar for his talents.
Because I think what you said at first is really the crux of it. It's just KD's going to be there. And KD is one of the best players on the planet, if not the best player on the planet. And you remember that All-Star, before they got together, that All-Star weekend when they went to Miami together, this was a true relationship between the two of them. This was plotted for them to play together.
Correct.
So I don't see a place where that doesn't happen.
And also, I know he want to get his bag, and I believe that he will. But they got some unfinished business together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? How about this? When the Lakers and the Clippers both got Kawhi, PG, AD, and LeBron, who would have thought we'd be years later and they never play against each other in the playoffs?
Well, who would have thought that would have happened this year?
The same thing I want to say for the Nets. They are now one of the biggest what-ifs. You know what I mean? It's like they got KD, they got Kyrie, they had Harden, they got Simmons.
and Simmons didn't play. This was the same team that was number 1 in the Eastern Conference last year. Also lost 11 straight games. Did the Pistons ever lose 11 straight games last year?
No, of course not.
The Pistons didn't lose 11 straight games.
Such a
this
thing.
team lost 11 straight games, but they're also so talented that, you know, they went toe-to-toe with the Celtics. It was a sweep, but those were close games.
And here's what they need to know. Brooklyn's own Iron Mike Tyson want to see them do something. I talked to him today.
You talked to Mike Tyson today?
He want to see them do something.
You talked to Mike Tyson
yes,
today
he want to see them
about
do
the
something.
Nets?
Yes.
God, I love
He need
Mike
to see his
Tyson so
hometown team